Hi again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. And this is our Big Ten special with Dave Hoffmann. We've got a special guest today, Cam Ilisara. He's going to be joining us from the University of Washington campus. He is the director of player personnel, and we'll talk to him in just a second. Before we get started, though, folks, in the next week or two, if you are already considering doing some things for the holidays and helping people out, and charitable contributions are a year-long thing, and if that's something that has crossed your mind, then I'd like for you to at least consider Faith by Works. Janine Rice has put together an organization that will meet at Woodruff Park, downtown Atlanta, at 91 Peachtree Street on Friday, September 19th. That's 2 weeks from today at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I'll be candid with you. They need a little bit of everything. If you want to make a financial contribution in cash or to Venmo some money to them, absolutely, it will be accepted and appreciated. But they need things like first aid equipment. They need toothpaste. They need toothbrushes. They need shampoo, wipes for your hands, towels, gift cards if you'd like to do something like that. Anything and everything that would help somebody who's a little bit down on his luck right now is greatly appreciated. Janine Rice started this organization a few years ago. You can reach her on her Instagram at It's by Janine, Jennine, all one word. It's by Janine. That's one way. And 404-791-4472 is a way for you to find out more about the organization, make a contribution, and certainly help out. The next time you consider giving, and if you've already been hit for things earlier this year, then we certainly understand. But the next time you consider giving, would you please take Faith by Works into consideration? We would greatly appreciate it. Dave, one of the great things about having a relationship as a national champion and a guy that can go back to the University of Washington and say, I need my tickets, man, where are they? Is you get a guy like Cam that will join you, and he'll be with you. He'll want to hang out with you. He'll want to party with you. Make sure you get your tickets, but then he has other people he needs to serve as well.
Yeah, well, you know what? We're so blessed to have Cam here today. Cam Ilisara, he's a what we call up in these parts a stallion, and he played for Coach Willingham and Coach Sark, and got to know him a little bit back in the day, but had the real pleasure in the last couple of years of getting together, and like you said, took great care of me when I got up there, like he does all the guys, and he does so many things. He's the director of football player development, and he works with the freshmen coming in and helps guys that are later in their career start looking at jobs for down the future. Really cares about the guys. That's why he's there and doing what he's doing. And I'll tell you what, if I was going to war and needed an A or B gap filled or a quarterback rushed and flushed out of the pocket, he'd be my guy. And Cam, thanks for being with us today, brother. I love you, man.
No problem. I appreciate that, Dave. Yeah, I'm happy. Yeah, I'm happy to be on. Excited to talk some football with you guys. And yeah, just to throw out as a disclaimer at the start, I am in the football building. I'm a part of everything, but I don't necessarily coach. But I do have my opinions on football. I coached high school for 12 years prior to this, so I know what's going on, and glad to share.
Thanks, Cam.
You don't coach, but I'm sure you want to. It may have a little bit of a side little comment in the corner of your mouth. You don't want to let anybody else know, but what are they doing? They need to rush a quarterback. I'm sure there's a couple of times where everybody goes through something like that, but you need to kind of keep it on the QT, don't you, Cam?
I do, because, my role, I'm more concerned about whether the guys are taking care of their academics or whether or not I'm onboarding an incoming class, or how guys are preparing for offboarding, right, when they're done playing.
Yeah.
But I do have some banter with the recruiting department, whose office is right next door to mine. If I'm like, I don't think our guys did that great on this one, and we'll go back and forth quite a bit. But
Cam,
I try to stay in my lane.
You said you coached previously, so football's been a part of your life. Tell us how you got the foot in the door, so to speak, with the University of Washington and the position that you're in now.
Well, to be honest, it was kind of by I would say a little bit of luck played in there. So I finished at the University of Washington in 2010, injured out, had a bad neck. All you had to do to give me a stinger was push my head just that much, and my arm would go numb. Yeah, so it's hard to play D-line with that. So I did a program called Teach for America. I went down to Mississippi, Holly Springs. I taught math and coached football, basketball, and track down there for 2 years. Worked with them for a year, managing other teachers. And then I came back to UW to get my master's in educational administration through our intercollegiate athletic leadership program. And that was the first time that I got to see from behind the scenes, right? What does it look like if you're somebody who's an employee of the university I worked in player development then. We really wanted to work in it, but these jobs were kind of scarce at the time.
Yeah.
So I reverted back. I went and taught math and coached football and track and field at Skyline High School in Sammamish for 8 years and loved it. But then my predecessor in this role, Justin Glenn, had told me at our Gridiron Social spring game reunion, he told me he was moving to a new role with the Big W Club and asked me if I'd still be interested, and I had to think about what's all changed over 8 years and if I'd still be interested. And I was, and here I am. So I've been here since 2023.
So for someone that doesn't know any better, now are you from Washington originally?
Grew up in Spokane, Washington. Yep.
There you go. All right. Hey, how many pounds did you lose when you went to Mississippi? And it was probably what, July or August? It just melts right off your body, doesn't it?
It yeah. Just I got used to my form from the elbow down, just being caked in sweat because I had to wear dress shirts every day. But
oh my gosh,
I was probably 270 when I went down there. Got down to 250 from just sweating all day long, and I gained it all back and then some. So,
you look good, stud. Yeah.
What do you think is is there a key? I mean, for somebody that goes, I would love to be a part of player development and in the athletic department and around the guys and making sure that they have everything that they need to be successful at any school. What are some of the tips that you would say? This is the hard work part. You got to spend some time here. You got to grow and develop ideas there. You've got some other things that you need to do. There's times where you're helping kids move in. That's not really a part of the the plan, but you got to do what you got to do. Talk a little bit about some of the things that are a part of the process for a person that would eventually want to be in the same type of position where you are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I talk a lot with, I have an intern every year, and I talk with some of the undergraduate programs or even the master's program that I was a part of. And I tell anybody who's interested in player development, just be aware. It's kind of a luxury position, to be honest. Like every school is going to have a running backs coach, a tight ends coach. Not every school is going to have somebody working in player development. So what might happen at a school that doesn't have that position is those responsibilities get absorbed by the director of operations or even position coaches, at a smaller level. So I tell them to be aware that the scarcity of the position is a real thing. So just be prepared. You're probably going to have to be able to move, which at this stage in my life, I didn't want to move. My family's pretty hunkered down here and, we like it. Got a lot of friends around here.
You didn't want to go back to You didn't want to go back to Mississippi. What about if we went to Lower Alabama? Would that be okay for you?
The South was great. My experience in Mississippi, I had a great time. Very different, I will say, going from Seattle to Oxford, Mississippi, which is where I live, and seeing how they tailgated an Ole Miss tailgate completely. There were no actual tailgates. There were no truck tailgates. No. There was all these giant tents and people wearing. Yeah. So here's the story. I went out and it was like 98 degrees. The first Ole Miss game in the Grove, 98 degrees. So I'm like, let me put on some jean shorts and a tank top. And I stuck out like a sore thumb because I'm walking around and everyone has three-piece suits on. I was like, oh, this is
my God.
Hey, all the students, the boys they look like they're ready to go play 18 holes, right? They all got the golf shirts and the khaki pants on, and it's unbelievable the uniform that they have to wear in order to get.
That's what we call it.
It's a little different. It's a little different. If you got cowboy boots, you're in, right?
Yeah, it was so I remember the uniform, as I noticed, was a pastel-colored PFG, or Performance Fishing Gear shirt, some short shorts, some Sperry's.
Yes.
And then they had the sunglasses with the croaky. And I was like, everybody's wearing this. And here I am in a Muscle Beach tank top, looking like a real foreigner. But
everybody offered you a plate of short ribs, though, too, didn't they?
I did love the food. I had no complaints about the food down there. It was the fried catfish and the hush puppies.
Oh, yeah. Okra.
The food was great. Yeah. The fried okra was an acquired taste, but I love the cuisine down there. But to go back and answer your question, what I would also tell somebody, yes, it's scarce. Yes, it probably helps to be able to move. But ultimately, I think are you in it for the right reason, right? Like I know a lot of people ask me, like, are you wanting to try to coach? Not really. No, like I loved coaching when I did it, but I still consider this coaching. It's just coaching a different facet of life. It's coaching the guys in things that may not be a priority right now, but will become the one and only thing that they need to worry about, which is their long-term well-being moving forward. So as long as you're in it for the right reasons, like, hey, I'm in here to help support the players, right? That's the biggest thing. Because I just thought back to my experience and guys that I played with. There's things that you feel comfortable going to your position coach about, that you'll talk with your coaches about. But there's some stuff that, really it's not supposed to be talked to, not supposed to go to a coach about, hey, like I'm having this issue with my driver's license or whatever the issue may be. So I like being there for the guys for that reason. But yeah, as long as you're ready you have to be ready to adjust on the fly too. That's the big thing I've learned. After 12 years as a teacher, I knew that at 8:00 I was teaching Algebra 1. At 8:50 I was teaching geometry. And then at 9 o'clock I was teaching Algebra 1 again. So there's a routineness to it that doesn't exist. I'll come into work some days with a list with check boxes that this is what I'm going to get done. And then something comes across my desk and I don't get to a single one of those things because I had to address whatever it is that came across my desk that day.
Right.
So
it's all
if you
about
find that
priorities.
exciting, yeah. If you find that exciting, which I do, like I still find it, I find every day to be a surprise. And as I'm rooted in, I want to make sure that I'm there for the players and helping them out in whatever way they need. But at the same time, this last thing I'll say, I think there is a fine line between player development and player enablement. So I really don't want guys to get the perception that, hey, like the rest of your life, people are just going to bend over backwards for you and do everything for you. That's really not the case. I don't think that's the reality of post-football life. And so getting these guys to develop the skills of like, hey, you can handle this on your own. Like I'll help guide you through it, but I'm not going to do it for you.
That's a great perspective. My follow-up question was going to be, and I want to be careful, there's a sensitivity about, certain things you can and cannot say. So I want to be careful about that. But could you give an example and maybe a nameless player or somebody that you've been able to see for yourself when the light bulb turns on, an idea or a concept that they never even thought of from an academic or from a future business or professional level, and you were able to be a part of something like that, and just the reward that you get? It's different from coaching when you see a guy knock another guy down and you can do, yes, that's great, fantastic, great job. Here, a little more of a cerebral way of seeing the same type of success.
Yeah, I'll give you. So I have a handful of them, and granted, this is only going into my third season, but I've worked with a handful of guys where the things that stick out to me, I think there's a couple different scenarios in where guys start to focus on me more and like, hey, what does Cam have to offer? Because for the most part, if a guy is, he's a starter, he's thinking about going to the league, I get it. They're not going to want to go do a day-long job shadow as much. Like they're focused on trying to optimize their performance. I get that. I respect that. But where I see guys starting to, hover around me a little bit more, one of them, if you are an upperclassman and you really haven't gotten many meaningful snaps, and they start to see the writing on the wall, like, all right, this might be my last year of football. And when they start to have that realization, that's when guys start to approach me more. And I'm glad to have that conversation and start talking to them about like, hey, like make the most out of these last couple of years. I always tell them too, if you want to keep playing, there are other options. There's a team, there's a league in Mexico you can go play. There's a league in Europe. There's Canadian ball. Like if you want to keep playing while you can. But if you're ready to hang them up, let's have that conversation and talk about what you're going to do. And I think the most rewarding moments are when I've been able to connect guys with internships and opportunities that they've really enjoyed, and they started and in my mind, I'm like, all right, they enjoyed that. When they're done playing, they're going to be able to think back to that experience, and they're going to be like, that's what I want to do. They at least have an idea. So it's not that moment that we were talking about before we got on the show where I'm done playing, and you just have that very lonesome moment of what do I do and who am I?
Right.
So being able to get ahead on that. But then I'll tell you the other one that I'm really proud of. This one is I had a hard time with stingers when I played. So 3 seasons in a row, I started as a sophomore, junior, and senior, but I made it about halfway through the season, and then my neck was so flared up that, like I said, all it took was you to push my neck like that, and my arm would go numb. And I bring that up because I hated the feeling of just going from being an integral part of the team, and then all of a sudden I'm off on the sideline in a red jersey, and it's the most lonesome feeling. You're there, but you don't feel there.
No,
you feel invisible.
Yep.
And so what I've made sure to, flavored by my experience, that happens to guys. Still, there's guys who can't play for the season, and they spend a lot of time around the facility. And I understand why, but they're just trying to get treatment. But I'll go catch up with guys in the training room and have those conversations like, hey, you interested in getting into what do you want to do? You want to do real estate? You want to do firefighting? Let me connect you with something so that you may not be developing physically, while you're rehabbing, but we can make sure that you're developing professionally. And then instead of them just having their minds caught up on, I'm not playing or I'm not practicing, they can think, oh, I got to get down to the firehouse, because I got to go see what we're doing today. It gives them something else, a sense of purpose. So those were some of my favorites. And I've had a few of those without naming names throughout the years that fill my cup.
Yeah, Cam, that's what I was thinking about that when you're talking about, kind of starting to see the light. And so many guys they're in the training room and you realize, when you're freshman, sophomore and you think you're bulletproof and then your body starts falling apart sometimes earlier than we ever planned. And so you really start, that'll open your eyes real quick. And I'm sure you get some guys sitting there getting stem and ultrasound and this and that and realizing that they're in there every day. And, we're very far from bulletproof. And so that's, I'm just glad you're there for the guys. That's great.
And it's not just me. So I have to give a shout out.
Right.
Like it's so much different now because back in the day, there wasn't a director of player development. There wasn't a sports psychologist. Like we have multiple sports psychologists in the building that, those are the people that I get it. If you're injured and you can't play, like the coaches kind of got to focus on the guys that are getting on the field. So, they're not going to be able to necessarily hear you out as much, but you have people that are more qualified to talk through, like, how do you deal with an injury? And I've just focused on like, hey, let's find something else that's going to help you develop your identity outside of being a football player. While the sports psychologist can talk to them more about, the things that they specialize in.
Cam, is there a balance that you found between the player that's going to leave after his junior year and go into the NFL? Education isn't really the biggest and most important thing for him. His education is on the practice field and then on game days. Versus another player who wants to even begin his master's while he's there. I've seen a lot more graduate students that are staying for an extra year to work on that aspect of their degree. Or the guy that says, you know what, when I came in here, I was thinking I wanted to do this, but now I've been here for a while. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start my own business. You have to get everybody's different, and you have opportunities on the far end. People that you speak to, let's just say Microsoft or Boeing or any of the hundreds of great companies that are there in the area, and matching them up with some of the students that you have that are probably interested in staying in the area or at least being gainfully employed by one of the relationships. You have a lot to figure out there. The ball's in the air and you're juggling a lot of balls and spinning plates at the same time. Fair?
Yeah, definitely fair. And I love the challenge of it. There's such a wide spectrum of player types that you're going to get. I mean, you get a guy who's a chemical engineering major while playing on the team versus a guy who, maybe here a little more for football and he's not as focused on the academics, which here's the way I've rationalized it. Either one is okay. I've talked with a lot of alums. Dave, you played with Leif Johnson, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Wonderful guy.
Yeah. So I had him come. I did a panel with him and a bunch of other alums to come and talk to the players about, hey, what their transition looked like. How did they get to what they're doing now? And what I've heard from a handful of alums is, some guys excelled in academics and they got a degree that stood as that could be your resume, right? Like, hey, I got a degree in pediatrics from UW, and that's your resume. Versus other guys who, they really weren't as much into the academics. They weren't the bookworms, but what they did is they did a good job of capitalizing on the network here in Seattle. And so it's, where do you fall in that spectrum? Are you a guy that wants to be, do you want to do the Foster School of Business? Do you want to do the Runstad School of Real Estate? Or do you just want to get out into those companies and, the gift of gab can go a long way. There's a lot of guys.
No, you're right.
Socially, right. They can talk and, they have a good personality. And so it's figuring out where guys fall there. And it's also just, you never know when they're going to be most interested in the services that I have to offer. There's going to be guys that come in day one and they're just wired that way. They're like, I want to be the epitome of a student athlete. And then you have other guys where it may not hit them until 2 years down the road, So, or when they're done playing. And so my strategy with that is we have an alumni network where it's a chance for those guys to stay connected. Because that's my big thing. If I don't reach you while you're here, then I want to be able to keep in touch with you. And so we have this network where I can post opportunities, and it's a way for those guys to still try to, take advantage of some of the resources that we have, even if you're not currently at UW.
That's great. And, I'm biased, obviously, towards just because, so many of my brothers, all you guys are, former ball players. But there's something, and I'm not just, being cheesy, but this is, there's something it takes a special person to be a real team player and, give it all you have and play hurt, and go through different emotions during the season. We've all been on horrible teams and we've been on great teams, and you learn something from both of those. And there's something about football players and about the guys in the locker room and your huddle that's just that's special. And I'm not saying there aren't great people from other phases of life, but a true team player is it's a blessing, and it's something that can do a lot of good for a lot of these companies out there. And I think that's a plus too. Just just kind of automatic, taking what they are and going further with it.
Well, Harper, you mentioned this earlier when you talked about, hey, your buddy that said, like, do what you're trained to do. That, I think, is one of the biggest things. Is you get a lot of student athletes that they finish playing and they don't realize that they have coveted skills that employers want. And so it's funny because, like, I've spent a year now with my colleague Cindric Steptoe. He's our senior director of player engagement. He's done this for 10 years, super wise, and our sports psychologist. But we tried to narrow down what are the transferable skills. I'm sure you guys have heard that term, right? Transferable skills. You hear it all the time. What do you develop as a player that you can translate right into whatever profession? Well, to me, what I recognized about a year ago, I was like, I say transferable skills all the time, but that's not a common vernacular that I'm using with the players. Like, I need to be talking about these skills and acknowledging those skills while they're here. And so trying to figure out what those are. So we've narrowed them down to 4 that we're going to be teaching a credit bearing class this fall, actually this whole year. And that's one of the big units, is talking to them about, like, hey, here are the skills that if you develop these right now, you're going to be a better college athlete and student, but they just so happen to benefit you in the real world when you finish.
Like, could you rattle those off?
Yeah.
So
I'm taking notes.
It took some wordsmithing, and I can go into my rationale for each, and there's so many, right? But I wanted to find a good acronym that I think each one of these, like, it covers as many athletes as possible. And granted, I'm not just doing this class for football. I'm going to have men's basketball and softball in there as well. So I wanted it to apply to all. So the acronym that we came up with was CARE, C-A-R-E. And so, again, with each one of these traits, there are things that if you are, you develop at them while you're a student athlete, you're going to be a better student athlete, and then they benefit you later. So the first one, C, was coachability. Coachability. And that, I think it's such an underrated one that, as an athlete, we're just used to it, right? You get coached every day. You get ripped in the film room. You get coached out on practice. You're getting coached multiple times throughout the week, every single day. And what I learned when I got into the workforce, not naming names, but there were some teachers that I'd see that, you do an evaluation, right? An administrator comes, watches your class, and then gives you feedback, right? They're just coaching you. And I remember I loved those evaluation meetings. I'd sit down, they'd tell me, hey, like, these students were checked out. This message that you sent was received really well. But I noticed that there were some teachers that they hated doing evaluations. They hated anybody critiquing their practice. And my mentality I was always surprised by that. I was like, well, they're telling you what you can improve on. Like, they're just coaching you up. But then I realized, like, it's because I've been getting coached my entire life. And so that's something that I think athletes, they don't realize they're developing it, but, like, your ability to take instruction, to get motivated, like, let another person motivate you, is unique, from the general population. So coachability being the first one.
And Cam, please forgive me for interrupting. I'm sorry for that, but
yeah, no problem.
That doesn't mean you're going to get fired. It just means we love you to do a better job than what you're doing right now. We see you. You think you're giving everything. I know that you've got more in you, and you're going to get better sales. So you're going to get better results. You're going to drastically improve if you just learn to to smile while you're doing your job. It's so easy.
That's it. Be coachable. Yeah.
It's a great word, Dave. I bet you Cam should use it. Oh, I'm sorry. You already did.
You know what? Yeah, work that in. There's a thing called CARE. Yeah.
So I mean, the acronym. It's like we had three options. It could have been CARE, it could have been RACE, or it could have been ACRE, right? But so the other ones though. So A was one. So we chose adaptability. So adaptability being, and this is there's a number of ways where I think adaptability applies to student athletes. The first one that we a lot of people say time management, right? They always say, "Oh, athletes are great time managers," but to be honest with you, I actually disagree with that because, and here's the reason why. I think there's a difference between time management and schedule adherence, right? Yeah. You're adhering to a schedule that's made for you, right? So your ability to show up, right? That's part of that. But in terms of actually managing your time, well, you only have so much free time, but are you actually managing that? So I felt that adaptability kind of sums it up better because you have to adapt like our guys right now. We had a change in coaching staff. They have to adapt to a new way of things, a new scheme. Some guys get moved to different positions. They have to adapt. Adapting to a new schedule, like the season schedule is so much different than the winter lifting schedule, and you get your new class schedules. Like you're constantly having to adapt. You have more things that you're having to adapt to as a student athlete. A lot of students, I always tell them, like, there's a lot of students on campus that they just go to class, right? You're doing that, and then you have a full-time job on top of that. Now, granted, I'm not excluding. I know there's students on campus that do class and work multiple jobs, but student athletes in general, they have meetings, lifts, practice, treatment. It's a lot of stuff that they have to adapt to for their schedule. So that and adapting to different coaches, I think that's a valuable skill that they're developing.
Yeah. And you learn to adapt on the fly. You learn to adapt on the fly. Like even when a play breaks down, you know the goal that you're trying to do, and you find the way on the fly, 100 miles an hour. I know it helped me with my old job doing things. It's like you know what you're trying to do. Let's freaking do it. It may not look like we just drew it up, but let's get it done. And sometimes that's like a half-second decision, like you're on the ball field. Anyways, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, and I thought performance that I kind of put that under adaptability is what you were saying, which is performance under pressure. I think it's in football, you're better if when things get hectic, you tend to focus up, right? You put those blinders on and you lock in. And that's a skill that I've noticed not, I go back to my teaching days, and again, there'd be some days where there'd be a schedule change at the start of the day. And some people, like I'd see them really panic, like, oh my gosh, what do we do? I was like, well, we adjust. We figure out, the passing periods are now this long and this class has moved here. Like, we'll figure it out. Yeah, the R, and I'll be a little shorter winded on some of these because I can get rambling on this stuff. But the R is resilience, which to me was the quality that I latched onto most post football. And I always define resilience. It's the ability to thrive in the face of adversity. I think there's a difference between being resilient and being, having perseverance. Perseverance to me is you're making it through, right? You make it through something. Resilience to me is you go through a hardship, but you come out of it stronger. You come out of it better. And so it's a sustained period of time where I always think injuries are the biggest example. When a guy, you have an ACL and you rehab it so well and you come back even better, right? And you're mentally even stronger than you were before. Because as we all know, football is going to put you through the ringer, right? There's no way you're going to go through the experience of playing football without having some hard times. It's going to test your mettle. And so I think, if you're a resilient player, that's something that you're going to be able to go through some hardships professionally and come out of them stronger. You might lose a job, but you'll be able to find another job and you're going to be even more prepared for it because of the lessons you learned through football. And then the last one, we had to find a word that, we can make an acronym out of. So we went with an E, and it was embetterment. And I think embetterment, I truly think, is something that student athletes are probably among the higher percentile, in the general population, because what student athlete wants to just stay the same?
Right. Exactly.
Nobody wants to stay.
You always want to improve. Yeah.
You always want to get better. And that to me is a It's a unique quality that every single guy walking this building and every girl in their sport walking this building, they have in common. And it's, hey, you carry that over into the workforce, whatever it is that you go and do, like your constant drive to become better is going to separate you from others. So, yeah, those are our 4 that we came up with. You know, we piloted them with the rookie school class in the spring. And, yeah, we're going to keep on talking to the athletes about those. And my goal is this. My goal is that they go through their time here, and as one of those things get tested during their time as a student athlete, they can recognize it. Like, man, the coach isn't just being hard on me. Like, this is testing my coachability. And if I learn how to take to that coaching, it's going to benefit me now, and it's going to benefit me when I'm done playing.
Oh, great stuff. I'm looking right now, Dave. I'm trying to find in my papers here if I've got one more year of eligibility left, because I want to go back and I want to have Cam. I want to have Cam take care of me there and get me out on the field so I can do all of these things and prove it right. You know, and you mentioned an aspect of this, Cam, that you know, we predominantly talk football and it's a male only, but you know, employers are looking for young ladies that have the same type of determination, grit, discipline, competitiveness that are going to help make their company better. So this is so uniformly good for everybody that is there to take advantage of the system rather than let it take advantage of you. That's the way I've always looked at it.
That I love that you said that, because that was something that I told our rookie school class at one point. I was like, hey, sap everything you can out of this football experience. Don't let it sap everything out of you.
Yeah.
You know, like I've seen that happen all too much. You know, guys that they give their bodies, they give all their time, and then they come out of it and like, well, all I did was play football. And it's like, no, like I would say the most common piece of advice that I have alums come back and talk to the team. And I would say the most common advice by far is take advantage of the resources available to you. It is the most common. And so part of our rookie school class curriculum is getting those resources, whether they be people or programs, and putting them front and center in front of them and like, hey, this is what is available to you. This is why you should do it. This is how you access it. Because I think a lot of people, they'll go through, 3 to 5 years, and then at the end of it be like, oh, like I never talked to our sports psychologist. I never went to any of our professional development events. And it's like that time has passed. So take advantage of it while, strike while the iron's hot, as I was saying earlier.
Yeah. I remember John Snyder was a professor in marketing when I was at Colorado State. And he was a rugby guy. I went to watch one of the rugby games, and he was there. And afterward, hey, what are you doing here? I go, just checking it out. I'm checking you out. I'm seeing if you're any good, And he appreciated that so much. It's not like I need to have a beer with somebody. It's just, you know what? You're developing a relationship, and you can call it networking or whatever. And I didn't want anything out of it. I wasn't expecting an A out of the grade, and I didn't get one. But at least I developed to where that's the guy. Even today, I'll tell you everything about that man and all he did to help me in a way that I wouldn't do it for any of the others, if that makes a sense. And so, just different experiences for everybody, and you get to do this on a daily basis. Cam, is there anything in the 3 years that you've been at Washington, if you were the president for the day, that you would change or modify, that you've learned that now that isn't working so well, but I'd love to do more of this? Is there anything that you would have in your wheelhouse that you'd like to alter and change for the empowerment or embetterment of care and everything else that you're a part of?
That's a tough question. I'll think on it, but I will say it is so much improved. Like the game has evolved, the university support systems have evolved as well. So there's not a whole lot for me that I would complain about. I mean, I think we do a really good job taking care of our student athletes. Anything that they really need, any treatment, any amenities, like we try to provide. And but man, if I were to change one thing, I'll choose something trivial. I wish the parking passes that I got on game day were closer. I'm out in New York. I guess that's a small thing, but it's a small thing, but it's kind of a big thing. Like we, I mean, but
not to date myself, but not to date myself, but we used to call that lot out there the 75-cent lot. That's what it used to. That's what
it's 75 cents.
Yeah, and then I think when I left, it was $1.25. Not kind of like the bets I had with Harper, but the that I remember we used to have our different methods of getting the gate to go up, and yeah, and every now and then one of our big offensive tackles would just walk right through it and make it easy for us. So.
Well, yeah, but
I'm
unique
gonna
situation, Cam. I'm glad you bring that up. The unique portion of the topography there and the footprint there of the campus, the stadium is basically on this peninsula, right? You've got people that literally come in because of the boat that carried them or the ship. And you've got the practice facilities. I think softball is just to the northeast a little bit of where the campus, where the stadium is. And so I would imagine, yeah, parking, and then guys like Dave that just go, "Hey, give me a pass. I need one, and I want to be right next to the stadium."
I take the train. Yeah.
Stop it. Dave gets front and center, right?
Stop
it is.
Yeah. Well,
It's
Cam's
unique
good
being
to me,
in the
but
middle of the city. Yeah, I've had to make sure I tell incoming freshmen every square foot of pavement here is going to require some type of permit. So just be prepared for that. And but I'll out one team. I think it's a funny story because the lot that Dave and I were talking about, it's called E1 or E18. It's it's probably like a quarter mile away from the football facilities. But we used to have to park there and pay every day, and it was about $5-6 every time when I was here. And so, nowadays, just to show you how much has changed, there is a parking garage, a covered parking garage underneath the stadium, so our guys can pull into there and walk. Takes them a minute to get to the locker room. But yeah, I'll out him guy. Donald Butler had the best strategy because guys would lift. He'd have a teammate go out and hold up the arm, and they drive under. But Donald Butler, our old linebacker, I watched him one day. He kind of put the e-brake on a little bit, let his car kind of coast a little bit, got out on his own, lifted the gate for himself while his car rolled under, and then hopped back in. So
I had nice yellow streaks down the left side on the very top corner. Sometimes
Everybody had that. Yep, right outside the driver window.
Exactly. That's just
with NIL money today, Cam. I would imagine that it's a little bit different now to where parking says you go wherever you want, sir. Ma'am, you can go wherever you want. Dave Hoffmann and you have to be on the other end of the campus.
That's right.
Well, can I say something on the NIL? You got a minute for me to?
Please do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So NIL, and as it's transitioning to revenue share, where they're getting paid directly by universities. So here's one. I think there's a misconception that I really want to dispel, which is, I think a lot of people are like, oh, these players are getting paid, and they're spoiled, right? But I always tell fellow alums, I'm like, well, guys, we would have loved it too. We wish we got that as well. But the thing that, everyone I think has this conception that they're all blowing their money, which here's what I'll say, they're 18 to 23-year-olds. I think all of us probably made some, unnecessary purchases in our time at that age. But here's where it's what I don't think people realize. We recognize that. And so we bring in financial services to teach the guys how to take care of their money, how to make sure that they're investing it, how to set up the right accounts, how to get an LLC, an S corp if warranted. And what I will say is the guys are they're extremely receptive to the financial education. So the recklessness that I think some people just assume on players of, oh, they're just going to blow their money. There might be some guys that, they might go and buy a car that's a little nicer than that what they needed. But at the same time, if they're presented with the education, which we do it through a guy named Jed Collins, former NFL guy, but he lives over in Bellevue, and he's going to be coming and teaching a big unit in our rookie school class. He's actually coming to talk to our team next week, and he's phenomenal. So that's the other thing that I like to get out into the ether is that we're not just throwing money at players. We're throwing the education out there as well, so that when we talked about that transition when they're done playing, it'd be nice to have a nest egg, right? And these guys, all of these guys should be able to have a nest egg to be able to live off of while they're trying to figure out what they're going to do when they're done playing football. So I always want to get that out there.
Not only an interesting point, but one that once it's received by the folks that aren't really aware of, some of the details regarding, the amount of money that some of these kids are getting and what they're doing with it, to know just specifically that there's some education, there's a lot of things that people are trying to do to help them protect the wealth and to turn it into an asset instead of a liability for the rest of their life.
Right. Yeah. So I just don't think I don't think many people think about that. They just think about, they hear the numbers and they think, oh, they already get everything. The guys are making smart decisions, but you just have to educate them on what those smart decisions are.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Well, I didn't mean to put you on the spot there by asking you, what you would do to change it. I'm just saying that I'm thinking that your role 3 years ago might be slightly different because I can do this. I can also do that. They didn't ask me to do that 3 years ago. I'd love to be able to tap in some different resources where, one, I'm good at it. Two, the kids need it. And three, it's a benefit to everybody involved.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So with that in mind, what I would say, what I'm working on right now, and I told Dave this is, when I first came in, I was just the alumni in building, but there wasn't really a structure around that. It was just, hey, you'll host an alum if he comes by, get him some tickets. But I really want to bring alums back into the fold as much as possible. And I'd love to try to see, in what ways could alums benefit the program now, and so we have this alumni network. I'd say that's one of the big things that I've started doing more with. It's become a much larger portion of my job is running our alumni network and bringing alums back around and, trying to create a bridge between the former players and the current. So I just posted a trivia question, like the top 6 sack leaders at UW in all-time career, and let the alums take their guesses at ranking them, but then having a current player on our team read off, here are the top 6 in order. And it's good because these younger guys, they don't know. No. They're not aware of who these alums are and the legends that have come before them. But I'm having Jacob Lane, one of our top pass rushers, he's reading off the answers, to alums. So it's trying to bridge that gap between old and new.
Yeah.
So that's a newer effort that I would say is different from when I first came in.
Is there room for Dave Hoffmann in there anywhere for record holders with the University of Washington and hanging out with some of the linebackers today?
Hey, Dave's a wall guy. Okay, Dave, I call him wall guys. He's on the walls in the building. He's cemented here for sure. So.
They're gracious, man. Yeah.
No, that's
honestly, all of that. I mean, if you go back and I have to admit, before Don James got there, Washington football was definitely a different realm. It was a homecoming date for on the road. You're always going to be somebody's homecoming. Oregon State had some of those things, but from the mid 70s, maybe late 70s on, nationally renowned. And for you to be a part of that, Cam, I'm sure you appreciate and value what not only the education but the experience of playing at the highest level meant for you.
I enjoyed it. I know it was some tough years, but we just to give kudos to Dave and his teammates, just know, Dave, when we were here, we thought the world of all you guys that came before us. I mean, we were fans at the same time. We were fans of the guys that came before us because we knew what you guys accomplished. We'd heard all the stories. And just trying to recreate that, because I think the new age of college football, traditions, I want to make sure they don't die. I wanted to make sure the Say Who chant, I wanted to make sure that stayed around. So we did the Say Who project in the off season. That kind of stuff. Yeah. I think it's what makes college football different.
I think so too, man. Exactly. The history, the tradition, and just appreciate. I always appreciated guys coming back and walking over during practice or whatever and shaking their hand and talking to them and just getting, there's always that bond. It doesn't matter if they played 6 years ago or 60, and it's just there's always that bond. And I always say in a way we all kind of have the same screws loose. You know what I mean? We're all wired similarly, man. And I love the way. I don't mean to put us all in one basket, but the way that we look at the world and life, and a lot of us aren't afraid of certain things, and you just and maybe more cautious about other things, but we're all similar in a certain way, and we're all very different, and that's the beauty of it,
Mm-hmm. That's the thing you miss most is the locker room, right? What other sport or activity in college puts that many different personalities in one room together where you live your lives together for so long. You're around each
Yep.
other so much, like you just get exposure to types that you'd never be around otherwise. And
Yeah, and somebody asked me when I finished playing, well, what were the things I missed most about it, and I said contact, but I meant the physical contact. Of course, you always miss that, but the contact you had with your brothers in the locker room and the huddle, man, there's nothing like it.
and I hope that our alumni network in some way can try to reconnect guys, because it's great. I love seeing all the alums. Like, I get all the tickets out to guys, and we got a good little section in the lower
Yeah.
bowl, and it's cool to see guys reconnect when they show up there. And that's one of the things I enjoy doing. To answer that question of what have I done differently since when I first got here, I'd say I'm doing a lot more with alums than when I first got here. So, but it's crazy that it's only been 2.5 years. It feels like it's been 5 to 7. I feel like I've been here a lot longer. A lot's happened.
I don't know if that's a compliment or not. Like, if it's a wedding, I go, I can't believe it's been 2.5 years but I get it. And there's so much more. I'm sure your vision, your look into the future, and what you would love to be able doing in the tomorrows to come that will be even more beneficial is all part of the works as well. Cam, if you don't mind, we this is a Big Ten show. We do want to talk about the Big Ten. We'd love to have you back, because I don't even think we've tapped into half of what you've been able to accomplish. But if you don't mind, would it be all right with you if we kind of go over the schedule here for the Big Ten and take a look at who's playing and some of the big games that are going to be taking place? Is that all right with you?
No problem. I'll chime in when I can.
Okay, and when we get to Washington State, oh, by the way, we won't. But I would imagine people can just turn the sound down, because you're not going to have anything good to say about the Cougars or maybe even the Ducks. We'll go into that. Dave, tonight it starts. Big Ten action for this week includes Northern Illinois. They go to Maryland, and then Western Illinois ends up in Northwestern. Any of these two games intriguing to you at all?
No, I think Maryland's going to be a team to watch this year, and I think they're going to be kind of that quiet, silent but deadly. So we'll see, and this will be a good game. Northern Illinois usually puts a team together, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Maryland. What did they do? They won last week. By the way, and Cam, there are 6 teams, in the top 20 right now in the Big Ten. Just 6 right now. It's a shame that there's only 6, and Ohio State being number 1. Anything? Let's go to the next one. Florida International at Penn State. Penn State, obviously, number 2 in the country. Cam, we'll start with you. Anything about them that you're worried about for later on in the year regarding how good they are and where you think they're going to finish from a competitive standpoint in the conference?
Penn State?
Yes.
Penn State, I'll talk from my experience when we went there last year. It's the first time going to that stadium. It's a beautiful stadium, a great crowd, and they had a tough team last year. I remember last year, what I was most impressed by was their running back duo that they had. And if I'm not mistaken, they're both back. That Katron Allen and Singleton, I believe, is the other name. And those guys, I think either one of those guys look like they could be a starter at any other big program. And they got the tandem back there. So I think that'll be a task for any team that's going against them.
What impressed you about Beaver Stadium? Was there anything in particular, aside from it's too bad they can't get anybody in the stadium? It's a shame that you can't get over 100,000 people in there.
Well, they had, I think they said they had 111,000 last year when we went there. So I was excited to see that, and I wanted to see how loud it could get. But here's a plug for Husky Stadium. I still to this day have not been in a louder stadium than Husky Stadium. So, okay. They got loud at Penn State, but still Husky Stadium is the loudest I've experienced still.
Dave, how about you? You never got to play there, did you?
No, I didn't. When we played back in Nebraska, that was a really loud, loud place. And you know what? And kind of what Cam's talking about, I remember sometimes we'd have these defensive audibles. Just for example, if they were going empty, there would be 2 or 3 blitzes that we'd check to. We were a pretty aggressive team, and it would be so loud at some of these places that I would tell the guys, if you just hear my voice, because I know you're not going to be able to hear what I'm saying, but if you hear my voice screaming, it means we're going to this, this blitz. We're going to silver or gold, or tough mic or something, and we'd call the blitz out ahead of time, and just because they could not hear a dang thing that anybody was saying except for hear a voice screaming, and that was my that was my little voice back there. But but you had to factor it in even when you're playing at home. So
yeah, it's definitely in some places one of those things. It's ominous, if that may be the correct word. It just you had the ability, Dave, though, at that time in Nebraska, to kind of keep them a little bit quieter, right? Well, they started out
yeah, that was
fast.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you start taking care of business, and they quiet down a little bit. But yeah.
What about you, Cam? When you played, what was the biggest road game that you got to experience?
We went down to USC in 2010 and beat
Mm-hmm.
them at the Coliseum when they had a good squad. Other road games, notable places. Honestly, when we went and played the Rainbow Warriors down in Hawaii, they had a rowdy crowd. They got after it down there, and it was a forgettable game. I mean, we were up, I believe, 28-7 in the first quarter, and then Colt Brennan went and had the best, maybe quarterback performance that I'd observed in person. I think he went 43 for 50,
Wow.
and they ended up pulling it off at the end of the day. But I mean, yeah, all the other teams in the Pac-12, we didn't have any big. I'm trying to think of what road games we had for non-conference. We went to BYU. I learned how altitude can affect you. In the third
you learned that
quarter,
when you took a quick jog around the field, and next thing you know, you had to go sit down and get some oxygen. Isn't it amazing when you're at 5,000-6,000 feet?
I don't remember me having access to the oxygen tanks, but I remember in third quarter feeling like I'd already played 2 overtimes.
Right.
And I was like, I'm taking these deep breaths, but I feel like I'm not getting what I need from it. So that was a memory from that was senior year, season opener.
It's a Mile High Stadium. Yeah.
Yeah. Or you were at Colorado once, weren't you, Dave? You played there?
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I played there too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. A sophomore. Yeah.
Right. Well, let's get back to business here. So Saturday, the first game is Penn State. That's at noon. Also at noon, Illinois goes to Duke. I'm a little surprised at Illinois. I'm not wondering that they're there at number 11, but this will be a little bit of a test. It's on the road, first game at home. So give me your thoughts here, Dave.
They're saying this is a must win for Illinois if they really want to be one of those 10-win teams. This has got to be this is where they've got to show it. Duke's got enough juice to test them, and so so this is even though it's early in the season, this is kind of a must win for them if they're going to try to do anything this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Also at noon, you got Kennesaw at Indiana. Kennesaw State, just a smaller school, an FBS, school that Southern League. But Indiana has continued to amaze me. They got how many points they have last week. Offensively, they're very good. And Kurt Cignetti just keeps proving over and over again that I'm here for a reason, and we are at a different level right now. This isn't a mistake. Well, we plan to be here for quite a long time.
Yeah, I think they're going to probably keep rolling, obviously, this week and probably for a while.
Yeah, I will say with Indiana, we went there last year, and you could tell there's an excitement around that program. You could feel it when you pulled into their stadium. So he's building something, and they got a good team. So that's going to be a tough game for Kennesaw State.
Yeah, Kennesaw's going to struggle there, but hopefully they do better than Georgia State at Ole Miss last week. Let's leave that one as it is. Northwestern State. So Ed Orgeron, Joe Delaney, Mark Duper, Bobby Hebert were on the same team at Northwestern State back in the early 1980s. And we're a long way from that. But they've got to go visit the Gophers here. Minnesota, again, another one of those teams that, they could do it. They may lose to Penn State or Ohio State middle of the season, and that kind of deflates the balloon. But right now things are still going good for the Gophers.
Yeah, I think so.
Next game here, Grambling, right? You get HBCU going to Ohio State. Dave, you and I spoke a little bit about this. Cam, I don't know if you got a chance to see. I thought everybody in the world would at least peek. I mean, even if you're Michigan, even if you're Oklahoma, you're going to peek at the Texas-Oklahoma State game last week just to see
Right.
what these guys have. Um,
Yeah.
the defense for Ohio State was fantastic. I will take a little bit of liberty of just saying that I have some questions. Arch Manning threw from every possible angle except for throwing with his left hand last week. I thought it was very
Yeah.
interesting how he seemed to not get into a rhythm. Cam, did you get to see any of that game at all, and any comments regarding the Texas-Ohio State game?
I actually didn't catch any of that game. I had a house full of family last Saturday morning, and so I was occupied. But I'm catching up with an old teammate of mine, linebacker Brandon Hupert, who's coaching linebackers at Texas. So I'm going to have him fill me in. He had talked to me pregame about what they're planning to do, and it sounded like defensively they did a good job. Texas did against Ohio State. Not good enough apparently, but I got to get his post-game debrief.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting to see, and kind of what you're saying, Harper. We really didn't get to see Manning doing, really what kind of he's there for, and it just, and I don't know if Sark was trying to keep it simplified a little bit, or what the deal is, but first game, but you got to bring out the stops and maybe get back to some RPOs or something like that with his Manning supposed to have some legs. So I don't know, but I did see what you saw, Harper, with the different angles and the throwing motions and lack of consistency. Defense showed up, but it wasn't like the offenses were incredibly powerful. So
yeah, it was they seemed to be struggling a little bit. A few too many punts if I were a Texas fan, but we'll find out. Anyways, Ohio State just proved that what they retool every year. They got 3 or 4 guys that are going to replace the 6 or 7 seniors they lose from the previous year, and they look loaded. So Grambling ends up going there. Oklahoma State. Now I'm hoping that they have a little more in the tank than what they showed last year. Very, very difficult season if you're a Cowboy fan, and they've got to go to Oregon. Cam, you've been to Oregon on numerous occasions. I would imagine that you know also how to win there. What does Oklahoma State need to do?
You might need to ask Dave on how to win there, because I, unfortunately, during my time, we never got the best of them. But being there last year, I mean, Oregon, I got to give them credit. They get their stadium rocking. I maybe have some speculation. Maybe they're pumping some crowd noise in there. It doesn't make sense that they get it that loud. But they're a good team. They're a good program. And, hopefully Oklahoma State is up for that task, because I'll tell you what, one of the things that I noticed going to these stadiums that we hadn't been to before, you got to bring a different level of energy as a team because I doubt there's going to be many people, Oklahoma State fans, in Eugene. I doubt it. So, and that's something you have to prepare for. One of the things I always say is, like, when we went to games at Iowa and Indiana last year, and if we scored a touchdown, I'd be looking across the field to see if there's a flag, because there was no change in volume.
Yeah.
And I was like, what happened? And so if Oklahoma State's prepared to go in there, because Oregon, they get it rocking on game day, but if they're not intimidated by that, and I feel like if you can stymie them early, right? And Dave could talk to you about this, because I think his his teams back in the day, they would shut up teams when they were on the road. I feel like it's a fast start, put the fans back in their seats, and keep it rolling from there.
No, you're right, and that's it. And you get there, and you kind of, and what both you guys were saying, you take pride in putting on the black hat and just going in there and taking care and taking their house from them, and it'll shut them up real quick. But and be very physical, be smart, and just take care of business and do it from the very get go. And it'll be loud maybe the first couple series, but if you start you start whooping up on them, it goes away. The whole they have a great team. They have great talent, and they always do. They always have good coaches, staff, and all that. So I'm looking for them to to have another big year. Like they do. I guess this quarterback, Dante Moore, I think it's his first big kind of big test, and so we'll see how he does, and if it takes him a while to get warmed up and get going, or if he just has his hair on fire from the get go. So we'll see. But either way, it'll be a great game, I think.
Well, this is a 3:30 kick here in New Jersey. Miami of Ohio goes to Rutgers. Rutgers escapes with just a 3-point win against a lower level competitor last week. Any idea what Rutgers needs to do to stay afloat this week?
I'll tell you. I think they just yeah. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Dave.
No, I'm just saying. I really, I've not had a really chance to watch them. Usually they play pretty sound ball, and I don't make a lot of mistakes and aren't big at beating themselves. And so that's what, at least in the past, that's what they've done. We'll see if they continue that this year.
Yeah, all I was going to say on them is, speaking of going to places you hadn't played before, Rutgers, I got to give them kudos. They have a heck of a game day atmosphere. I know we had a tight one with them last year that ended up not going our way, and I think Coach Fish has said a lot of positive things about Coach Shiano. Knows what he's doing. He's going to have a disciplined team. They're going to play well, but I think who was that? The Red Hawks. They're going to have to be ready because you don't expect it when if you haven't been there before. You walk in and you're like, this stadium, they get after it. I mean, they got a Scarlet Knight in a full suit of armor coming out onto the field, throwing a sword into the ground. It's
awesome.
It's an experience. Yeah, they have a good time.
Yeah. What I used to dislike is anyone that had the cannon when they scored. If you were even near it and you didn't know it was coming, and that would usually get you to jump all over the place, and not in a good way. Middle Tennessee takes on Wisconsin. Have you been to Camp Randall, Cam? Have you been?
This year will be the first time.
Yeah.
November 8th. This year will be the first time.
Yeah, another really big stadium when you think about it. 85,000. It's kind of spread out. It's not as big as the Big House or the Shoe, but it's real close. It's just one of those places that it was on a bucket list for me. I was able to go there. Played a preseason game when I was with the Packers there, and boy, they love their football, and they certainly love their team there. Dave, your thoughts here on this one?
Well, Wisconsin usually has a really, really solid defense. They've usually pretty big about stopping the run. They've got linebackers that play typically real downhill, and so I expect that. Middle Tennessee is from a little bit I do know about them is they usually have some very good skill players, some receivers to stop. So could be interesting. And my guess is they're going to need to throw the ball a bit to if they're going to hang with the Badgers. So we'll see. It should be interesting.
A lot of folks will be watching this for sure. Michigan at Oklahoma. I'd watch anyways. I just that they'd never play each other. You know what I mean? This is one of those rare times with outside of a bowl game that you get to see these two guys go at it, these two schools. And even though probably neither one of you are rooting for either one of them, I think the respect for the game itself speaks for the volumes of, this game will draw the attention. I'm glad we've got it this week.
Yeah, Cam, don't you think? Both these schools have so much history that it's just going to be interesting for folks just to tune into.
Yeah, I'm shocked that they haven't played before. I mean, those are two storied programs. That'll be a fun game. I'll definitely make sure I can try to tune into that one. But yeah, Michigan, they're a good team. I mean, Michigan, obviously we've had our recent history with them. I think we've paid them 4 out of the past 5 years, I believe.
Right.
They won in 2022 or 2021. Obviously, they got us in the national championship, and then we were able to get them last year at home. But they're a tough team, good program. And then Oklahoma, they were rolling now back when I was playing, and then now we'll see. We'll see what they can do with the home field advantage and Michigan coming into town.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. Let's go to Nebraska. The third biggest city in the state ends up being right where that stadium is. And the Akron Zips, they come in there. This is a money game for them. We know that. Nebraska should come out of this one with just a W and hopefully no injuries, and they'll be just fine with it.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully they get to play some of their backups and get that going, but you don't want to be too cocky. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to call this the Todd Helton Bowl, or the Helton Bowl, because Georgia Southern now their coach is was at SC for a little while. Normally it's a long way now for the Eagles to go to play a ball game, and 7:30. They're not going to get back to Statesboro until about 9 or 10 in the morning the next day. This is a long trip, but again, another one of those things. It's a money game for them. They're going to make some money, and hopefully they don't get any guys hurt. Any thoughts here about the Trojans?
No, I
Look
think
at
it'll
you.
be it'll be.
No, I'm
I think it'll
asking
be
two
interesting.
Washington guys about a Trojan comment. No, they got nothing. Nothing. You'd rather talk about Michigan State. Boston College. This should be a good game too. Nice matchup. I don't know what to make of BC. One year they're terrible. The next year they're pretty doggone good. The
Right.
inconsistency has left me wondering what's going to happen. And same with State. Michigan. They're always one win away from challenging at the top, but usually that loss occurs in the middle of the season. Have you been here yet, Cam? Have you been to East Lansing?
Yeah, so we went down there 2023 and put a beating on them in their home stadium. And that was the national championship season. But I will say I'm excited for a couple things from Michigan State. I know Coach Smith, after leaving Oregon State to go there, I think he's a good coach. I know he was at UW for a while. I've had friends that coached with him. And to see him in what's, I believe, the second full year in that program and see what they can do. But I got to give kudos to this is a beautiful town. East Lansing was great. And the community was awesome out there. And so it was a good time. It was also a good time because we ended up winning that game big. But, yeah, beautiful place to play.
So what you're telling me, Cam, is if you lost, the community and the beauty wasn't quite there. It wouldn't be the same. It's all right.
It wouldn't be quite the same.
Yeah,
but it was nice. Nothing like I'll never forget when we played at BYU. They beat us that year, and they gave us like gift bags in the locker room. The fans were saying thank you, like shaking our hands. It was the weirdest experience.
Yeah. And we wish you could stay a little bit longer. We'd love to beat you again. Now get out of here. Go on, get. Take it with you. All right. The Salukis. Every night once in a while, I'll talk about how the Southern Illinois Saluki, which is the most unique or one of the more unique nicknames and all, they go to Purdue. This will be at Ross 8 Stadium, 7:30 kick for here. Any thoughts on this one, guys?
I remember playing back there 100 years ago, and they left the grass long for us.
Yeah, they want to slow you down.
Oh yeah, well they tried, but it was it was interesting. And of all things, I think it was pork day, and they had all back there all the beautiful corn and pork they have. So it was a big pig on the scoreboard, and no, I think Purdue will have a good time, and like you said, the Salukis will make a little money.
Cam, are you ready to put together a pork day there in Seattle?
Not yet. I don't know if I'm ready for
salmon day.
Yeah. Salmon day.
Salmon and crab. Yeah.
Right. It is interesting, like seeing all these slides. It's interesting because all this new competition with being in the Big Ten, I'm still adjusting to it, to be honest, too.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not in the role where I'm watching film way ahead. I'm more the football adjacent, but so I'm kind of learning on the go too, getting a feel for what these new programs have to offer.
Here's another logo that you don't want. Now, usually I would say that this is going to be, a game that should be the other way around. UCLA would be hosting UNLV instead of traveling to Vegas to do that, but it's in Allegiant Stadium. So I think on purpose, there's going to be a chance for a few more of the Angelinos from Los Angeles that end up going there. UNLV could be a surprise right now, but UCLA with a tough loss last week.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think this could be a surprise too. UNLV's usually got some tough guys. Usually, always at least one good running back that can really play, and then and a quarterback that can usually sling it. So, I don't know, Cam. What do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be UCLA after last week, see they bounced back. I mean, that's the other thing too. With a lot of the week one performances, I think some teams takes them a couple games to hit their stride. So, I'm not to write off UCLA just yet. They got some new weapons. They got the new quarterback, and it might just take a couple games for them to find their rhythm and get clicking. So I'm intrigued by it. I don't think it's I don't think you can write them off just yet.
Yeah, they'll bounce back. They always have talent there. It's just getting them to all play on the same page. Sometimes that's not easy to do. All right, let's look at this one. Cam, I'm rattling my change. I got $1.25 here. I lost last week. Colorado State Rams went up to Seattle. I don't think they were ever ahead. It was close. It was 14-7.
6 quarters. That's 6 quarters. Harper,
we just needed more time. Is that all you're saying, Dave? Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, no, yeah, 6 25-cent pieces. Yeah. Or I'll lower it down to $1.25. We'll go 5.
You were going to go 5, Dave. I'm not paying you 6. I mean, look at that.
Interest.
Are you going to? charge me a couple of tariffs on
That's
the
right. That's
more.
right. That's right. That's right.
So Cam, we put $1.25 on the game last week. Give me your thoughts here. What impressed you about Washington? It just in terms of they're not midseason ready, but I like what I saw here. I think the offense is going to be able to score throughout the course of the year. The defense, what impressed you specifically?
So Jonah Coleman, it didn't surprise me because we know Jonah's an explosive player, but seeing how we got the offensive line rolling as well too. The offensive line, I've paid close attention to in the offseason. We brought in some new guys. We got Carver Willis, who transferred to us from Kansas State. He brought a phenomenal energy, and like the way he meshed with the Hatchet brothers and Drew Azzopardi, it doesn't feel like he's a new addition.
Wow.
Which with an offensive line, that's phenomenal. You want them playing together, and they got an edge to them. They're nice guys, but they got an edge to them, which, those as a defensive lineman, those are always the worst to play against. The guys who are really an asshole on the offensive line, and they can be, they're collectively assholes on the offensive line, and
That's
they know how to play together. And when you have a backfield like we have behind an O-line like that with Demond and the wheels that he has, Jonah, and then Adam Muhammad coming off, rotating in with Jonah, like our rushing attack, it didn't surprise me, but it was just good to see that we have some pieces all coming together last week. So really excited about our offense, and that's not even talking about our passing game. Demond can spin it. We got great targets. You got the tight ends with Quentin Moore and Decker DeGraff, new addition Cade Eldridge. But the receiver room too, Denzel Boston is a special player. He was under, essentially under the tutelage of, Rome Odunze, Jalen Polk, and Jalen McMillan, in 2023, came into his own last year, and now he is the guy. He is phenomenal receiver. But then you got some young talent coming up too that I'm really excited about. So Desmond Roebuck, true freshman, came here in the summer. Immediately made an impact in fall camp, got himself, I think, a catch or two in last week's game. Raiden Vines-Bright, another freshman who came in the spring, turned a lot of heads early. Rasheed Williams, who's been here for a while but is starting to come into his own. So I'm really excited about the offense, but then, defensively, that's the side, I have my biases with my background. I was watching the defense really closely too. And, I'm excited to see how we approach this game this week. I hope it's just an absolute mauling that there's, from the start, we don't leave any question, because I know that was something that, our guys talked about after last week's game was, we need to start faster. We can't leave it to where, we're going in halftime tied up. We want to try to put it away as early as possible. But, we respect the opponent, UC Davis, don't overlook any team. We've made that mistake as a program before. Right. Coach mentioned we overlooked Montana, what was it, 2021, and took a loss to Montana at home. And so never go into a week thinking, oh, this is in the bag. And so our guys have been prepared well all week for this game. And I'm excited to see how we come out fast. This game is what I'm most excited to watch.
Dave, it's a shame that Cam doesn't have any coaching experience and really can't explain anything. I know.
I know. I don't think he left anything for me to say, but you know what? It was fun to listen to your views on it, Cam, and on everything from the field to the care stuff and all you're doing for the players. And I just before we're done here, man, I just want to tell you how thankful I am that you're up there and working with the dogs, man. I get, my heart's there, and I'll always love the place, and I always feel like the guys after me, I feel like they're my little brothers, man. So I just want to say thanks for all you're doing. And kind of looking at the game last week, that's what I saw too. I saw some nastiness on the offensive line that was really nice to see. I saw, rewatching the game, watching the tight end just pancake the guy on the first play of the game. Just getting off and just having a good time. And that's, there's only so many games in a season, especially in college, and of course we get beat up doing it, but you really got to take advantage of every game, no matter who you're playing, because there's only what do you got, 13, 14 games maybe, and it's just you really got to take advantage and let loose and do your thing, because the rest of the year you're just starving for it, and it's a great it's great fun. Like I say that all of us with the right screws loose. No, it's just there's nothing like it. And so um, I'm a little we'll see what the defense. I know that they're playing some different fronts. They're doing some 5-man stuff, and they're kind of adjusting. And I think the guys will eventually. Will feel more comfortable with it, and there's some new things going on, but just to shut the run down and be able to play just a base defense and shut other teams down is important to do. And then you can get into all the fun stuff, faking stuff, blitzing from different sides and doing things. But just to get up there, get your true read, play downhill, and get after it. Rush the quarterback, keep the keep good contained. I'm listening to some of the replays. We're starting to collapse things. It happens with the first game. That's the way it goes. But hopefully this week we kind of tune things up a little bit better, get a little sharper edge to the knife, and have some fun.
Yeah, from last week to this week, one of the things to keep in mind too, that I don't think this is to be overlooked. When you have new guys coming in, and let's just talk about our defense. How
Right.
many of our guys on our defense last week was it their first game in Husky
Yeah.
Stadium? You had Ontario Thompson, D tackle, who came from Western Michigan, his first game. You have Alex McLaughlin, safety, who came from Northern Arizona, his first game. Buddha Alukta, our linebacker, coming from Wazoo, his first game in Husky Stadium. So, I mean, you can't overlook the fact, and Takario Davis too, and a lot of those guys played really well, but I think their ceiling is much higher than what you see in the first game, because you come in Husky Stadium for the first time. I remember Carver Willis, the old lineman, said he came from Kansas State. He was like, "Yeah, the crowd was awesome, but it was so much more than I think what he had experienced before." So to see guys kind of settle into their, that they feel that this is home, and for this game, like not being so. I don't know. I have a feeling that when they ran out of the tunnel in the first couple drives, that their heartbeat was probably going 40 beats per minute faster than it may be this week, right? When they're conditioned and they've been through it. But yeah, defensively, like I have full confidence in the guys that we have. And here's the thing: Colorado State was a good team. That was one of the biggest sentiments that I heard after that game. Like we wouldn't be surprised if Colorado State ends up, getting 8, 9, 10 wins this season. Like they're a good team. So, yeah, for us, it's just, can we settle into our groove and start fast and put a game away early instead of trying to find our rhythm, all the way throughout the first half.
Well, I'm grateful that both you guys acknowledge that there's that little smirk that a big offensive lineman, when he's doing his job and he keeps you from making the tackle or get to the quarterback, he just that's all you got. You know what I mean? There's a certain competitiveness that you recognized, and on the good side of it, you saw that in the Huskies line. And I think of Caleb McGarry as being one of those guys, the Falcon right tackle, who's been doing it for 7-8 years now, and he's got kind of that little nasty in him. I go to the echo of the whistle. I'm not going to cheat you, but I'm going to make sure that you fight me every single down. And for you to guys to both recognize it and acknowledge it as an important part of the teamwork, that obviously fits well. Dave, final thoughts here before we go for the day.
Well, I'll tell you what. Once again, it was just great, Cam. Thanks for being with us and sharing a big part of your day, and thanks for all you're doing for the team up there and the guys, and not just the football players, like we were saying, all the athletes and just the general community up there. Really thankful for you, and it's exciting to see the Huskies doing their thing, and the Big Ten in general. It's fun to see so many teams in the top 20, 25, and I just got a feeling it's going to be. We're probably going to have 8 or 10 of them stacked up there during this year, and it's going to make for some really fun competition. And I look forward to getting up there sometime soon, Cam.
Yeah, anytime. Let me know. We'll roll out the purple carpet for you. And we appreciate it. Honestly, the whole fan base and all the alums, we appreciate everything. The time, your years when you were here and what you guys did for the program. I mean, it's Hall of Fame history type stuff. And so now it's us in the new age trying to get back to that. I know 2023, made our run.
Yeah.
But I really believe
Absolutely.
what Coach Fish is doing going into our second, this is our second season with Coach Fish. Like, he's got a vision and it's coming together. And honestly, I gauge everything based off of how the players are responding to it. And I see our players bought in. Like, really, the guys are following his lead. So I'm excited where we're going to go from here.
That's great. Yeah, no, he's outstanding, and the crew he's got with him, I've got nothing but good things to say about. And from the minute I met Fish, I just, he just got a real sense of he is what he claims to be. He's just the real deal, and so it's fun to support a guy like that.
Well, a little bit of Washington bias here, but certainly the rest of the Big Ten can look with admiration about the expertise that Cam Ilasara brings with him as a former player, as a coach, and now as the director of personnel there with player development at the University of Washington. Cam, we really appreciate your insight and a view of what you are a part of each and every day and how you get to help young athletes to perform at the highest level, and both while they're there and accelerate them into their life, either with football or in other sports and beyond. So thank you so much, Cam, for being a truly special guest. We'd love to have you on again. We didn't even tap into hardly any of what you really do, but we value and appreciate your time and everything that you gave us here today. So thank you for that. And for everybody who was able to watch and be a part of today's show, it was a little bit unique, a little bit longer than what our normal Big Ten show will be. But when you get guys like Cam that are going to come on and tell us a little bit about what's going on campuses all throughout the country, I think you'll find it worth your while. So we appreciate that. So for Dave Hoffmann, for Cam Ilasara, I'm Harper LaBelle saying thank you for tuning in to 100 Yards of Football. This has been our Big Ten preview with Dave Hoffmann. We greatly appreciate you being a part of the show. Have a